Hello everyone, my name is Caroline Guilbert. I'm a designer, artist, and holistic healer based in New York City. Today is July 3rd, 2024, and I am thrilled to share a bit about my journey and creative practices with you. I create sculptures that highlight how we perceive and experience color while also challenging our relationship with waste. As a process-driven artist, sustainability is definitely at the core of my practice. I source materials from local and secondhand origins using natural dye techniques to extract colors from food scraps and flower waste, reframing the issue of waste and integrating nature into the artistic process. My work emphasizes that our perception of color is shaped by context, light source, and our experience. And by projecting shifting hues of light onto each sculpture, I create what I call chromatic moments that invite the viewers to become immersed in the experience. And through these sequences of light, including black light that activates UV-sensitive pigments, I create a sense of movement and depth, with shadows playing a crucial role. The idea is to offer a healing journey for the senses and illustrating how our vision can misperceive light's spectral composition, and highlighting that color is a dynamic, even illusory sensation that I always found fascinating. I was born and raised in France, where I pursued my master's in color, deepening my understanding on how color impacts various facets of our daily lives, from psychology to theory and beyond. After completing my studies, I moved to New York City, where I worked for major brands like Giorgio Armani and Reebok. And in these roles, I led color and concept design strategies, helping to shape the visual identities of these iconic companies. My approach has always been holistic, considering not just the aesthetics, but the emotional and psychological effects of the color and how it translates a certain identity of a brand. Within Reebok, I brought to life several sustainable color initiatives, which we really need in this world in the product and garment making industry, because we all know it's a very wasteful and polluting industry. Besides my corporate experience, I've always had a passion for linking color with other creative mediums such as floral designs and music. I love dancing and movement and sound. It all has a big role to play in the viewer interaction of my work. I've also built a dedicated spiritual and mindful practice, which has turned to be more and more as a foundation of everything I do. I'm deeply committed to the healing power of color, which I apply in my artwork and also in healing therapies like yoga, sound healing, and Reiki, which I led on the side of my art practice. In 2023, I made the significant decision to leave my corporate role to focus full-time on my art and healing practice. And this transition is allowing me to fully immerse myself in my passions and to continue exploring the transformative power of color in new and exciting ways. Color is way more than just a visual element. It's a powerful tool that can evoke emotions and tell stories and foster connections. And this holistic approach to color influences every aspect of my creative process, basically. In my art, I strive to capture these moments and translate them into pieces that resonate on an emotional level. So it could be the color of the sunset or the vibrant interaction of colors at the farmer's market that day. It's non-figurative, it's indirectly told. You won't recognize a shape or an object, but you will feel the connection of it. My upbringing in France has significantly influenced my work, I would say. It's such a rich country when it comes to art and culture. Going to museum was a regular and frequent activity to do that most people I know would participate in. Definitely my exposure to some great artists very early on, I'm sure, influenced me. I've always loved Art Nouveau in Paris. It's all over Paris. It's metro stations. I've always loved these fluid lines, organic forms, the intricate details. This movement really showed me how art can mirror nature's elegance and be at the service of people in the everyday. From a socio-economic perspective, coming from a middle-class background taught me the value of resourcefulness and innovation, which is reflected in my sustainable art practices of extracting colors from food waste and flower waste. For me, it's a way to honor my roots, not as solely a French person, but as a human, and celebrating and honoring the effort and energy that was put into bringing all these produces and organic matters to our plate or to us, basically. So definitely addressing contemporary issues of sustainability and environmental consciousness. My childhood was spent in the countryside, so definitely very much filled with nature. So nature has a big influence on me, whether it's through the organic materials I use or just maybe a pattern that I create that maybe reminds the effects and composition on a petal of a flower. It's always so present in my art. My biggest influence are a wide spectrum of artistic movements, artists, but also holistic practices. So growing up in France, I was exposed to a vast variety of cultural influences and this realization that art is everywhere. Obviously, the French appreciation of art and beauty and craftsmanship has been very important for me, and I think French people are really proud of this, but I'm in awe with craftsmanship and the human behind the effort that is put into pieces. And it instilled in me a deep respect for the creative process and the importance of detail and quality. Sometimes a bit too much into the detail. Growing up was in the countryside of France, so I played a lot in my garden. I was surrounded by nature a lot. As a kid, Salvador Dali was a big influence because of surrealism and his way of bending reality and creating dreamlike, fantastical scenes. Obviously, Henri Matisse, Mark Rothko. Roscoe was probably because it was the first time I was exposed to this idea of color as a finite tool. I've never been so much really drawn into figurative art. So this approach of color as a vehicle for emotion was very pivotal for me. Sam Gilliam comes to mind as well. I would say, first of all, because I've never been so much into the framing of an artwork. I remember going to those beautiful, historical museums with these paintings, 500, 600 years old. And they have these beautiful ornamental frames. And my attention was always drawn on the frame. And I remember telling myself, wait, is the frame part of the artwork? Because it's so ornamented and beautiful that it just catching my attention so much. And Sam Gilliam, his artwork is standing on its own. It's saying back off to the frame. It's saying let me be free of this structure. Let me embody a sense of movement through the color, movement on my own without the structure, without the framing. I found it so powerful. Katarina Gross also comes to mind for her immersive installation, this feeling of color floating through the space and reshaping the space. Kennedy Yonko as well for fusion of painting and sculpture and found material. And of course, the last one I have to mention is Pierre Soulages. Pierre Soulages, the master of black and creator of the concept Noir Lumière. Just the way he was applying those thick layers of black pigment and textured brush stroke and really turning painting into sculpture. And he uses light and shadow to bring that atmosphere of profound depth and speciality. It's such an invitation of contemplation of the complexities of the universe. It is something just quite mysterious that, invites you to explore your inner mind. So I've always found this symbolism absolutely stunning. And it really resonates with my love for texture and the transformation of materials from the 2D to the 3D. Like in my own work, I'm in awe when the material comes to life, moving from color to actual shape and 3D and coming out of the canvas. I found it fascinating. And obviously my influences, they also extend beyond the visual art. The philosophy and practices of yoga, Reiki, and sound healing that I picked up over the years have deeply impacted my approach to color and art, because I could feel how everything is somehow interconnected. And these practices, they emphasize a sense of balance and harmony and the healing power of energy. And this is all principles that I integrate in my work. That idea that color can be a conduit for healing and emotional well-being is something I continually explore and implement in my art. I've been back from my long travels 3 months ago. So I was several months in India and Indonesia. And since then, I've been increasingly brainstorming ways of, integrating all these holistic healing practices into my art. And obviously these travels, they've brought such significant change in perspective, because I've learned so much spiritually and creatively and culturally. Obviously, it's inspiring me to express this transformation through new works, including deepening my experiments. I want to experiment more with biomaterials, which I started a little bit already. But right now it's a great time for me to rethink how I want to pass my message, since so many things have evolved within me. So I'm excited to explore that next chapter. The biggest challenge of being an artist, in my experience, is navigating the balance between creative freedom and the practical aspects of sustaining an artistic practice even a business. On one end, it's about expressing yourself. You want to do this authentically. You want to explore ideas and pushing boundaries. And on the other end, it involves managing the business side of things, such as marketing and finances and networking. And that practical realities aspect has obviously increased a lot for me since I went on full-time with this practice last summer. And specifically because of living in such a, high speed, high demand, and high cost city like New York City. Sometimes there is a big clash between the reality and while owning such grounded and mindful values and creating with such a slow process that natural dye can be. It can be a bit nerve-wracking and feel completely contradictory from time to time. But we're working through it. But yeah, that it's not just about pushing the boundaries in the studio, right? It's about running that business. And that also means, the need of taking care of yourself. Because when you start wearing so many hats and the business is solely relying on you to be profitable, you have to maintain and protect what's most valuable, which is yourself. So it's someday about letting go of some outcomes and embracing the fact that I'm a human before anything else. And that I won't be so productive because, I don't know, making it up, maybe because I'm on my moon cycle and physically I won't be so strong, or I may be mentally tired, and on the other end, other times, and I'm sure many other artists can relate, during highly inspired times, my mind just produces ideas and concepts faster than I can even comprehend. And there's almost a battle in my head as to which idea I should allow to bloom and invest time in experimenting with. Because once again, this is a business. Experimentation is, as much as it's very important part in my process, knowing which ideas are worth pursuing further. That is a real professional artist skill. And we also don't want to stop whenever the ideas are flowing, how to make the best of this time. So it's all a balance. Advice I would give to my younger self, first and foremost, would be to trust into my instinct and follow passions for color and art without a doubt. Yes, there will be moments of doubt and uncertainty, but maybe being fully aware and more aware that these are parts of the growth process, seeing the challenges as friends rather than as enemies would have been great to digest earlier. I think yes, I think these are very important to know. Another key piece of advice would be to embrace experimentation and take risks a bit more. I come from a background where I was required to grow up very quickly and to be perfect. So I would say, allow yourself to be perfectly imperfect. Embrace those mistakes with grace, because they are actually your most valuable aspects. And everyone who might tell you that you should know it all is a fool. I would say that. And I would definitely say to my younger self to celebrate every achievement, no matter how small it is. Take pride in the accomplishments. I used to not do that. I used to look at what the next big challenge would be, and I remember at that time finding myself completely depleted of meaning and of joy. And since I started that habit of doing so, it changed everything. It changed my gratitude towards my practice, and the intention in which I come to the studio to create has changed as well. I've always been drawn to experimenting with unconventional mediums and technique in my work. It's obviously at the art of my creative process, from extracting color from local food and flower waste. Like, I work with what I get. I don't force a specific color, but I see what's possible from what I'm getting, and that requires experimentation. And it connects me deeply to the natural world, by repurposing organic materials that would otherwise be discarded. I create those colors that carry a story and a sense of place. They belong from somewhere, There's so many secrets untold in those natural hues. They have so much to tell us, not only from a color perspective, but also about how we live and what we consume. This method is both like an artistic and environmental statement, about the beauty and value of sustainability. I find a sort of poetic value in the things society discards and rejects. And there's a value and story in everything around us, of course. The question is, what are we willing to give our time and attention to? I've also experimented with the way I apply the color. Obviously, usually when natural dye, you want to do color bath, so you want to dip the fabric in it. And with the latest artworks I've been working on from the Colorful Black collection, I've been exploring the psychological understanding of the color black itself. So basically, behind each black we interact with every day, there's a specific hue hidden, and it's either a black with a dominant blue or red or green behind that is pushed to its deepest depth. So I question, at what point do we consider a dark color a black? So I've been applying the color with a technique that I call natural dye spraying. So directly on the artwork, layering and layering and layering until achieving that depth that we can visually read as black. Since I'm back from India, I also have started purifying the water I use for dyeing. I pour it into my Tibetan bowls, and I strike the bowls. The vibrations diffuse in the water. I sing my mantra or my specific intention that I want to infuse in the water for the final piece to carry. And, these holistic techniques, they influence the energy and intention behind my works. That's not something you can see on the finished product, of course, but I believe it helps create pieces that are not just visually stimulating, but also energetically resonant. I believe this is deeply engaging and meaningful. And I think I've also starting to observe how much, there's a sense of tranquility and connection created from these steps. I believe that, life is art. I mean, at least I consider my life a piece of art that I create every day through those rituals. And that way I want to set my life to live this human experience. And yeah, I feel like that is deeply engaging and meaningful. The music plays a significant role in my creative process, for sure. There is power in sound. There's an ability to influence emotion and energy and creativity with sound as well, obviously. When I start creating a piece, it always begins with music. I channel my energy and inspiration through what I wear and smell and hear. And the rhythms and harmonies, they guide my artistic expression, basically. And the genre varies depending on the moods and the intention for the piece. Sometimes it's soothing and meditative, and other times it's more dynamic and energizing. And it shows in the selection of colors that birth from that, so that makes the music an integral part of the artwork itself. And it's almost like a dance between sound and visual arts, because I let the music flow through me. So that creates sort of, I guess we can call it, symbiotic relationship. And I wish the final piece to resonate these levels of multiple sensory. There are moments when I prefer silence. That would be during the sewing process. It's done by hand. It's a deeply meditative and calming activity for me. I can fully immerse in the tactile experience of stitching each and every fold into place on the grid structure. And in these moments, the absence of music just helps me to concentrate and find peace. And it's also the final moments for me to pour an intention into the piece. So I take it very seriously. I had some very rewarding reactions to my works. One time during one exhibit, several people mentioned that the artwork, especially with the lights on, felt highly meditative, and it was offering a sense of escapism. So this feedback was incredibly meaningful to me because it aligned perfectly with my intention to create spaces where the viewer, they can find tranquility and a moment of peace from the outside world. So that was definitely very powerful to hear. Another memorable reaction, it came from someone who described my piece as looking like mini landscapes to get lost in. So that really was great to hear because of that immersive quality I strive for in my work. I aim to create artworks that draw viewers in, invite them to explore and connect with the layers of meaning and emotions of each piece. One really strong one, most profound actually, is someone who described my artwork as cosmic art that connected them to higher consciousness. This particular reaction was in response to the blissful voids from the colorful black collection. So they explained that the pieces, they felt like portals to another realm, offering a sense of connection to the universe and higher state of awareness. So this feedback was specifically very powerful and really reaffirmed my belief in transformative power of art. And one last which was really deeply moving, is the comments that I get highlighting the environmental impact of my practice. So one person expressed the gratitude for my efforts in turning waste into beautiful solutions, and the fact that I was emphasizing the importance of sustainability in art. This recognition was such an honor, and it also affirmed that my commitment to using natural dyes extracted from waste, it was not only creating unique artworks, but was also contributing positively to environmental consciousness. So knowing that my art can evoke such profound experiences, this has been the highest motivation for me to infuse even more, intention energy into each piece. Like I just mentioned, I hope that my art serves as a multi-sensory experience to connect deeply with color, texture, and symbolism. And now, obviously, at the art of my practice, there's that commitment to healing through color and holistic practices, whether it's through the hues of the waste or the dynamic textures from the sewing and the sculpting techniques. I wish and hope that each element can resonate with a deeper appreciation for the natural world and also the interconnectedness of all things, basically. I want my artwork to inspire dialogue about sustainability and environmental stewardship for sure. I mean, showcasing the beauty and potential of repurposed materials is quite important in the work, and I hope to encourage viewers to reconsider their consumption habits and, embrace more eco-conscious choices. We have so much power as consumers these days. Each piece tells a story of transformation, of alchemy, of turning this discarded elements into something meaningful and beautiful. And from a perception point of view, I believe color is a fascinating illusion. I'm so in love with it. It's such a wonderful spectacle that unfolds daily in front of our eyes, from, the way it diffracts through, an elements, or even like the sunset, the way the color is hitting the window at that moment of the day. My artwork explores this phenomenon, and it's inviting viewers to contemplate that as well. This subjective nature of color and of color perception and the way in which it shapes our experience and emotions is absolutely magical. It could be either through the contrast or the gradation through my art. I hope my art sparks a deeper awareness of how color influences our perception of the world around us. Ultimately, if my art can be a catalyst for healing, connection, and mindfulness, and a visual and sensory journey that invites viewers to pause, reflect, find beauty in the interplay of color, light, and form in your day, I would consider I accomplished my mission.